This guy was the 1987-1988 AMHL top goaltender of the year. He was the 1990-1991 WHL first team All-Star, drafted 48th overall by the New York Islanders in 1991, played over 250 NHL games, was the 97-98 Bill Masterson Trophy winner, the first player taken by the Minnesota Wild in the 2000 NHL expansion draft, TSN Hockey analyst and color commentator, co-host of the best sports radio show in the country, Overdrive, my guy, Jamie Noodles McLennan. Jamie, what's going on?
Not much. What's going on? I didn't even, I'm listening to you and I'm like, what league is, what was it? The AMML?
AMHL. I would assume that's the Alberta Major Hockey League. They may have renamed it.
Yeah, they did. So apparently it's like the under 18 now, but what you used to, I think they've taken the word midget out of it, obviously, because it was midget AAA, and I think now it's just under 18. What's so random about that is I did a Zoom with them the other day, that team, because they're on hiatus or whatever. And then, I don't know, you check your mentions on Twitter and stuff, and apparently like this guy who used to be a beat writer, his name is Larry Mitchell, he put out like the all team, whatever they're called, the Eagle Raiders, the all, most famous Eagle Raiders. And I never made the team.
What?
But yet I won top goalie in that league. And the two goalies, one is Landon Bowe, which he's in Dallas's system.
Okay.
He's like 25 years old, nice goalie. And then the other kid is a kid. I think he's literally like playing right now or something. So I was like, you don't really, I don't really care, but I'm like, I can't even make like the all-time team of that, under 18 team. And they asked me to talk to them the other day. So
and you have like the Vesna of that league, and these two guys are recency bias. That's not fair.
I would have left them on red.
Yeah, like, you know what? Like, I'm sitting there. It was weird because it came across my Twitter feed, and it's like, oh, the all-time, Eagle Raider players. It's Jerome McGinley. I don't know if Parayko was on there, but like guys like that. Like, there's a couple. I grew up in St. Albert, Alberta, so some pretty good St. Albert players. Nick Holden, I think, is a guy there, and so I recognize a few names, and then I'm like, I don't recognize anybody else, like no NHL, nothing. But like, I couldn't even crack the top two on that team all time. So it was kind of disappointing. I had a tough time sleeping that night when I saw that, but
you got taxi squatted.
Yeah, I guess basically I came in third, third or fourth, who knows? But what's going on today?
Well, I would say the best place to start with you is a lot of people that I talk to about you. I'll always say, oh yeah, like it was me, it was Noodles. And they'll just kind of look at me with this blank stare. And maybe we can tell the listeners where the nickname Noodles comes from, because I feel like, if I'm not mistaken, it's kind of the beginning of your pro hockey career when you were playing, where Noodles kind of started from, wasn't it?
Yeah, it's from junior.
Yeah.
So, when I first started in Spokane, and then I got traded to Lethbridge. So, I'm 16, 17 years old, and you're traveling, and you're like back then, and keep in mind, I'm 49. So we're literally talking like 31, 32 years ago. So the focus on fitness and, iPhones and iPads and plugins on the buses, and everyone had a TV. Like, that wasn't the case back then. We had one plug-in on the bus. We had one TV at the front with a VCR. We watched Slapshot over and over again, or whatever, you name it. So we would stop at like these crappy little diners for food. So you'd go on an 8-hour bus ride, and you're playing that night. So you leave at 8 o'clock in the morning. And for pregame, you'd stop at 12 or 1 o'clock. And I'm talking, you'd stop at these restaurants that are like, I don't even think they exist anymore. Back then, it was like, there was one called Ponderosa, which is like Bonanza, it would almost be like a worse version of like the Mandarin, like just, just gritty. And you go in, and it's greasy Salisbury steak drenched in gravy. and then mashed potatoes, and then there was an ice cream bar. So guys would just load up on ice cream, and you go and play that night, and always like halfway through the second period, like that steak would be sitting in my throat, and it would just drive me nuts. Like I'd have heartburn, all these things. So I started bringing a crock pot on the bus, and I would plug it in the one plug-in that we had in the middle of the bus, and I would just make like mac and cheese, Kraft mac and cheese. So I would eat that, and it was like simple carbs, and it was just very easy. So I wouldn't have the heartburn, I wouldn't have all of that. So I started making noodles on the bus, and then there were guys that after a while were like, to hell with it, I'm not having that junk. I'd stay on the bus with noodles, and that's kind of how it stuck. But I never thought, and I was a junior, I never thought it would translate to pro. Like a lot of times your junior nicknames kind of just fade away, and you get to pro and it's like a clean slate. For some reason, that one followed me. And what is it, 30 some years later, I'm still Noodles technically, but that's what it was. It was the food that was crappy. And I just made crock pot noodles on the bus. It's not a sexy story, but it is the truth. That's basically the origin of the story.
Well, my nickname was Skinny, and then that one definitely
yeah, we grow out of, like, you hope to grow out of nicknames. For some reason, I just didn't grow out of mine.
Yeah, Steve definitely grew out of his nickname, that's for sure.
Yeah, you'd want something like Killer, or
yeah,
something cool.
Yeah. Yeah, you're right. Like some of the best nicknames out there, like, you're right, are Killer, or the Animal, Frank the Animal Bialowas, Killer Kaminsky, Killer Gilmore,
the Grim Reaper, like
the Grim Reaper. Yeah, like you don't want a nickname like Stinky, or like, I mean, Noodles is okay, but like I had one that was like Pigpen. I played with a guy that was just like the dirtiest pig you've ever seen, so we called him Pigpen, which is a character off of Charles M. Schultz. Yeah, Charlie Brown.
Yeah,
the cloud above him. Like that's basically was a player that I played with. He was just a disgusting human being. But
O used to tell me, we'd be talking about Leafs or the Leafs or something, and he'd be like, Al, call Ugly Face. And I'd be like, hey, Brian. And we call him Brian McCabe. Like, how are you? And on live TV, like, hey, call Ugly Face, like the poor guy. Like that one stuck, and that's not a great one either.
It is kind of funny because you're right. Like, ugly is, and it's a term of endearment, but it is still like, if you're not in the loop and you think from the outside, it seems like a form of bullying, even though it's not, because we played with a guy in the island that we used to call Ugger, which he was ugly, and we just shorted it and called him Ugger. So, there's a lot of ugly people out there with nicknames ugly. It's just, I think hockey has a layer of where there's some honesty to it, where you just call somebody, like, if that person's ugly, you don't hide it. You don't call them handsome. You just call them ugly right to their face. So,
could you think of maybe one like stud who had the worst nickname? Because every time you think of a great hockey player, he's always got a great nickname, like Jumbo Joe, Sid the Kid, the Great One, Super Mario. Like, you can't really think of a very good hockey player that has a very terrible nickname.
Yeah, I mean, even Teemu Selanne was the Finnish Flash.
Yeah, that's a pretty good one, though.
Pretty cool.
Yeah, the Russian Rocket.
Yeah, like Joe Sakic. What was Joe Sakic's nickname? Handsome Joe or Simple Joe? Like,
wasn't he Burnaby Joe?
Burnaby Joe. He's from Burnaby. That's it.
Yeah. Like it sounds terrible. Great. I don't know, but it sounds good though.
Okay, it sounds great, but like Joe Sakic is one of the greatest players who ever played the game, and they're just like, yeah, that's Burnaby Joe.
Yeah,
like,
he's from
that
there.
Actually could be one. That actually, I used to call Chris Pronger Dr. Hook, Tim McCracken from because he was very vicious with his stick. Yeah, exactly. So I mean that one's kind of a true one.
Yeah, because Pronger's an all-timer, and that's not a great nickname for an all-timer.
Yeah, Dr. Hook, or just Hook. Like, he's in my phone, I think, under Hook. Like, that's so it's kind of funny. But the nicknames are, you're right. Like you want a good nickname.
Yeah.
If you have a bad one, we used to, only because I just saw him, I think yesterday or 2 days ago. You guys remember Robert Petrovicki? I think he's coaching the World Juniors. So we used to call him Bobo, which is, Bobo, Robert, Bobo. But for a while there, he had the nickname Helmet Balderas. He's kind of got a big head. So we would call him Helmet, like Helmet Balderas. And he didn't like that. So he's like, guys, like he had a team meeting. He's like, guys, I don't like the nickname. And the minute that you tell somebody you don't like the nickname, guess what? They double down.